Hello, persons. My name is Detroit Miracle and Corey Gerard, and I'd like to welcome you all to Monster Wars. Yeah. Now I have the exciting conclusion, which is part 3 to the battle between the Golden Fairy, Lanae Pervy, and Cobra Commander. And there is other surprises too in store for you, so tune in. Okay. Now Lanae flames her hair and eyes as she tries to catch up to Cobra Commander, as seen doing so. Then he looks back at her and says, "You should run away, Queen, if you know what's good for you." Next, the commander enters a room to the left, so the Golden Fairy goes in after him, as shown. Now Lanae looks around an empty boardroom, and the Cobra leader has disappeared again. Then suddenly he appears behind Lanae and then grabs her around the waist. So she grabs his arm and sends a shock through his suit of armor. Lanae next turns and punches his metal helmet. The commander then activates a flamethrower which sits under his wrist and then shoots fire at Lanae. She then blocks those flames with her hand and now shoots Cobra Commander with her fiery eyes. His armor shields him, but the impact rays knock the commander to a knelt position. Next, Michael Myers is shown in the throne room as he looks down on those knocked out Cobra soldiers. He then grabs one by his head and twisted it around. Then Michael picks a guard up by the neck and strangles him in mid-air. And lastly, the Psycho Myers lifts the third Cobra foe and then cracks his skull with both hands, as shown doing so. Michael Myers then leaves this room and the scene quickly speeds up. Now Michael is seen entering a machine shop within this Cobra base. He then gathers up as many parts and tools as he can find to work on something, which includes a power drill set, as shown doing so. Now Michael builds something and seals its ends with a laser torch as his face mask hides a human facial. Michael is now showing a super intellect, so he doesn't just have enhanced strength and healing abilities. Then Michael puts on a metal type of vest that has a clear bulb on its center. Cobra Commander next shoots his flamethrower at Lanae again as he stands back up, but she catches those flames and wraps them around her right arm, as seen doing so. Then this fairy changes her fire hair and eyes to red, and then she sends those rays back onto the Cobra Commander. And they short out his wrist device flamethrower, which causes his gadget to overheat and it nearly burns his hand up, so he quickly removes it. Then Cobra Commander says, "Oh, you are impressive, but can you handle these?" He then activates lasers on both wrists and fires them at Lanae, so she surrounds herself with an energy shield and his rays bounce off of it. Then Lanae flies to the commander and quickly breaks his laser barrels, as seen doing so. He next grabs her shoulders and a close struggle ensues. Lanae then replies, "Oh, Commander, you ran out of toys, didn't you?" So he remarks, You play a dangerous game, sweetness. Then the golden fairy builds electric sparks around her hands and then punches the commander repeatedly as he slowly moves backward as shown. Now, Cobra Commander is shown taking barrages of energy hits, and Lanae presses on her attack by hitting his armored head, chest, and sides until he falls on his back. Then Lanae unflames her hair and eyes and says, "I know what you're doing with Michael Myers, and it will bring great danger." So the commander replies, "What, more dangerous than me? I think not." Next, the golden fairy says, "You fool, you'd risk this world for such greed of need." Then Cobra Commander stands and replies, "That psychopath serves my grand design, and I'd risk every world for victory." Then the Cobra Commander removes his helmet and replies, "Oh, this is one more toy just for you." Now a bomb countdown is heard as Lanae looks at this madman's face. He then throws the helmet at her, but it only smokes up, so it wasn't a bomb. Then Lanae sees that Cobra Commander has left, so she leaves this room in pursuit of him, as shown doing so. Now Lanae is shown entering that throne room again and says, "Come out, Commander, and let's do another round." Then she sees those murdered Cobra guards and now flames her hair and eyes again. She next replies, "Cobra Commander, you did this to your own men?" Lanae then says, "Why would you? Oh no, it was Michael Myers." Now the golden fairy runs out of the room and goes to where Michael is being kept, as seen doing so. She next re-enters his med room and notices the slain doctor and also sees that Michael has escaped his bed trap. Then suddenly Lanae turns around and sees a masked Michael Myers in front of her. He then flips a switch near the bulb on his chest, and then a red light appears in the bulb. Lanae's flaming eyes and hair then go back to normal, but the golden fairy didn't want that to happen. It appears that Michael made a dampener which temporarily cancels power. Next, the lights are then seen going off in the room because of that same device Michael was wearing. Now the golden fairy is heard saying, "Michael, fight against your rage. Don't let it consume you." Then suddenly a backup generator resets the room lights and they come back on. Then Michael slowly approaches Lanae as he holds an army knife. She then tries to fire energy at him, but no energy weapons are working for her at this point. They don't come out of her hands nor eyes, which surprises her. So Lanae realizes that she has lost her powers, or they temporarily don't work. She then removes her cape and quickly spins around Michael as he swings his weapon at her, as shown doing so. Then Lanae throws that cape over his head and then jumps on this killer's back. Now Michael backs the golden fairy into a wall, so she falls off of him. Next, Michael removes the cape, grabs Lanae up, and then throws her across this room. Now Lanae appears shook while getting back up. She then runs into him fast and knocks Michael Myers to the ground, so it seems Lanae still has a great deal of super strength. Now Lanae punches Michael on his face repeatedly and says, "Gain control over your evil and win your soul back. Then Michael grabs Lanae around her neck as they wrestle on the ground. She next headbutts his forehead and then he lets her go. Now Lanae sees that drug needle near the dead doctor, so the golden fairy tries to get to it, but Michael grabs her left hand and pulls Lanae back to him as he sits up, as seen doing so. Next, Michael grabs his knife with the other hand and then Lanae frees herself by biting his hand. Then she gets up and goes to grab the needle, so Michael throws his knife at her and it cuts this fairy's top shoulder. Lanae then picks up the syringe as Michael stands and comes for her. Next, he grabs Lanae by her hair, but she turns and sticks that needle in his throat. Then Michael backhands her to the floor and removes the needle from his neck, but the golden fairy trips him to the floor after she kicked his knee. Then the good fairy grabs her cape and connects it to her uniform while she's floored. Michael Myers now says, "I asked for your help, but you trusted Cobra, so I'm going to kill you too." Lanae then replies, "I don't trust them, and I came back to help you." She then stands and runs to a medicine cabinet which has 8 long needles in it. Now Lanae throws them into Michael's mask as he approaches her with his knife. Now he seems disoriented because of those syringes stuck in his face. So Lanae kicks him in the chest and breaks his red bulb. Then suddenly her hair and eyes show golden flames as her powers are restored. Next, circling lights surround this fairy, and then Lanae disappears. Then Cobra Commander is seen watching at a monitor station, and he's wearing a blue cloth mask. The commander then says, "Oh, where did that light show take you, baby?" Then Lanae is shown back in the beautiful place, and dozens of other fairies are greeting her. Now the tech fairy turns off a teleport gadget, then the spiral energy around Lanae fades away. Sento then says, "I'm glad this thing worked." So her queen fairy replies, "Thanks, but I have to go back there." The end. And thank you all for tuning in.